Hey, Louis, very nice to have you on the pod. Welcome to Founder Journeys. First up, as always, let's start with your story.
Yeah, hi Sanjeev. I'm Louis Choquel. I'm the CTO and co-founder of Pipelex. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've been doing that for more than 2 decades, building always tech startups in new platforms. So, a few years ago, it was the distribution of digital music, video, peer-to-peer, and all that stuff on new devices, new networks. And more recently, video games on social platforms like Facebook and then on mobile. And I stopped doing all that a couple of years ago when I decided to enter the field of AI and Gen AI more specifically. So that's what Pipelex is about.
Where are you based right now, and where you originally from, and where you based right now?
Well, yeah, I was born in Sweden, but actually in French. So Pipelex is based in Paris, where it's Station F, which is the largest startup campus in the world, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty large. And we also have one foot in San Francisco because Pipelex is it's an AI dev tool. So we know that our market is here in San Francisco. That's where I am right now today for our launch week, actually.
How did you get to this point in your journey? Meaning, where did you start it? I know you mentioned you've been doing stuff on the B2C side of things as well as on consumer applications and stuff. So how do you
Yeah.
kind of find your way here?
Well, I started getting interested in AI 20 years ago. I read that book by Ray Kurzweil, The Singularity is Near. A friend of mine had told me to read that. So I got very interested in not the kind of AI that existed back then, but the future that was about AI that seems really intelligent, even competitor to the human intelligence. I was wondering, will that come? Will I still be alive when that comes around? Will I still be, an active entrepreneur? And I waited, and then when OpenAI, they opened the APIs to GPT-3. It was in 2020. I started to get my hands on that. I have an engineering background, so it was pretty easy for me to just try and build some side projects and prototypes. At the time, I was in video games, and I thought, okay, let's try to do something around the theme of my game was a crime investigation game. So I tried a few things in that theme, in that setting. I thought, yeah, maybe it's good to use this for games because it's not very reliable. So in business, it's not going to work. So maybe just for fun. And then when ChatGPT came around and GPT-4, then I knew, okay, no, it's not only for games. You can do real business with that, with real bring real value to companies. And so that's routed me towards the B2B where I am right now.
Okay. So it's a different world, right? B2B, the whole process of thinking about a product itself is very different. How you approach building as well as selling, obviously, which is a more critical part of it, is so much more tricky. Have you experienced any of that yet?
Well, after trying different ways in the B2B field, we actually started we were mimicked as a consulting firm initially to go and find the use cases and do we did the discovery in many different kinds of companies to understand how they worked, and we thought about how we could help them with AI. That's how I got started. And then we realized that the market was missing tool to make this efficient. So we started building our own tools, and at some point we thought, okay, this is going to be our product. And so our product is a dev tool because we were solving our own pain, and now we're offering that to other developers. And wanted to stress that because that's what this is a very big parallel with what I was doing before in games. I was in free-to-play games, the games where you start for free, and then there are options to pay for more inside the game. And here we have a dev tool, and we decided to open source it. So it's the same thing. Actually, we're offering this product that really brings something to the user, and it's free. And then we'll monetize in the future.
Okay.
So marketing to developers, dev tool is a very special kind of B2B.
So most new products, when they kind of adoption is driven by the large developer communities it attracts, right? How are you kind of building out on the community side of it?
Well, it's pretty early stage for us now. I told you it's launch week is about to start soon, so we haven't done a big large
Okay.
communication. So what we have is an embryo of community because before we launched, we wanted to have user feedback. So we started the community by onboarding people by hand. I mean, we brought them in a room, we did the workshop, and so this is how we started the community. And now these people are on our Discord where they can get support or bring support to each other. That's the first part. And also what we're doing is actually our product is really not only about developer community that can contribute to the software or give us feedback. We also have a second layer based on which is related to our product where people could share what they are building with our product. So this is going to foster this community, but it's really starting in a few days.
Got it. Okay. So let's talk about the product. What is Pipelex?
Pipelex, in a sentence, it enables you to vibe code AI workflows.
Okay.
So to be more precise, I'm talking about the workflows that do the same scenario every time, not autonomous agents that can improvise and solve new problems. They're useful. The AI workflows that are useful when you want the same job done many times, and many times the same way you want to control exactly how it's done. And we're focusing on all that is about information processing. So it goes from extracting information, analyzing it, and it goes all the way to making decisions. These are processes that need intelligence. These are processes that exist in companies now that are done with humans in the loop, and we try to make it possible to use the power of AI to do that. And we help people do it with a large control and determinism. And as I told you, we enable to vibe code those AI workflows. So the idea is that what we're building is a method. We're trying to get the AI to work, I mean, in a sense, like to labor and to make the effort to really solve an issue. So it's step-by-step processing. We go from a large task and break it down into small steps. We call them pipes. So it's a pipeline where you do those pipes in sequence or in parallel if they're independent. And so we're bringing methods to the way the AI is working. And so this method needs to be recorded somewhere. Somewhere has to have the recipe that says how it works. And so we created a language for that. So it's an open standard language, and this language can be written by AI also. So that's how you can vibe code it very efficiently. And it's a very high level language, so people can understand it, even if they're not technical. So you can have a developer work on that with someone from a domain expert, a lawyer, or someone from from sales, or someone from marketing. They could work together around that language.
Okay. So is it fair to say that your target segment, the user segment, is not just a developer, but can be even a process owner?
Well, for now, we're targeting developers. Someday we know that this will be available to non-technical people when it's widely distributed. But currently, we're targeting developers, and we're helping them also cooperate with these people in their teams. But it's really a developer tool. It's open source. It's a Python library to be concrete. So you can pip install Pipelex, or you can clone our cookbook. So that's those are the capabilities of developers. So that's who we're
Okay.
targeting now.
Where does this plug in? I'm just trying to get a sense of where exactly is the integration point for what you're building, right? And to
Okay.
figure out where it fits in the entire ecosystem. In if you consider AI as a broad ecosystem, where do you lie? Are you in between? My understanding at a very high level right now, based on what you said, is on one side you have the LLM tools, on the other side you have the orchestration tools. You are somewhere in the middle that enables things to happen. Correct?
Well, you can consider our system as an orchestration tool. It's orchestrating the work of the AI. And we are very open and modular. So it's really fundamental to our strategy to be pluggable with anything you're using already. So to do that, we're actually in the process of releasing all that you need. So first we'll release the server with an API. There's an API. You can call it from anywhere with any language. We're also releasing an MCP server. So that means that your agent, Cloud, for instance, that you talked about, Cursor or others, can use our tool to create workflows, also to run workflows. So if the workflow is deterministic, if it always does the same thing, then it's a tool. And if it's a tool, you can give the tool to an agent. So MCP is very important for that. We also want to to make Pipelex usable in the context of automation tools like N18, for instance. So we'll release a node for N18 so that, as we're focusing on the part, the thinking part, the smart part where the AI is, really working step by step, but we're not developing all the integrations with all the APIs and all the apps. This
Understood.
is the specialty of actors like N8. And so we want to provide the brain inside the workflow you're building with N8 or provide the repeatable method for your agents.
Let's say I'm building an application which has got some kind of processes that is there. Okay, let's keep it simple. I have an e-commerce store, okay, and I have a process that is just for reconciling my sales at the end of every month. Okay, and so what I'm doing is I've created something which is going and checking various channels that I sell on, picking all the orders, and then also checking back with returns, and then you're mapping out as to how much did you actually make, because you have,
Exactly.
and you may have some kind of math behind actual earnings based on cost of returns and all that stuff that is already preset,
Yeah.
just as a example. So in something like this, if I am automating the workflow of the fetch, meaning I've created a couple of automations that are doing these things across each of these channels, so I'm dealing with multiple automations, let's say. So in
Yeah.
this case, does something like Pipelex help me simplify that and
Well,
manage those various processes?
no, my answer to this example is you should not use Pipelex for that.
Okay.
Because the process you're describing is based on structured information. The
Uh-huh.
data in your database, your e-commerce sales, those are all numbers and they're in databases with columns, so everything is well
Uh-huh.
structured.
Uh-huh.
And this is what software has been doing
A long time.
for decades, and it works pretty well. We are now in the context where, because we have LLMs, we have AI that can understand unstructured data. So now all the other processes that were using unstructured data in the sense like a PDF, an email, a user complaint, or all of that, which is not numbers in columns, but really blah, 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 anything goes, and pictures also, all of that, unstructured data. Those are the processes that you can work on with Pipelex today.
Okay.
I mean, to be close to what your storyline here, maybe the reporting from your e-commerce is not only about numbers. Maybe there is user feedback. Maybe there is a breakdown from support, or maybe you have different point of sales that you need to. You have new products that you are launching, and you want a weekly report on that. That is going to crunch through all the project emails or all of that. So the this blurry, unstructured part is where we shine. But
Okay.
sometimes it's close also to the structured data. Take, for instance, expense processing. You want to process expenses in your team to check whether the company is going to reimburse and how it will be dealt with on the tax side of things. Well, the expense report, it's supposed to be structured the data, but sometimes it's just an iPhone picture of an invoice, a receipt on the counter, ugly stuff like that, or screenshots. Some people do a screenshot of their Uber ride and they send that to the county. So you need to extract information from that, and then you want to apply rules. So what we've seen in our experience, people who were trying to do that with AI, they took the whole expense report and gave that to an LLM with a very large prompt, a mega prompt that says, uh, for this kind of expense, you need to apply this rule, blah blah blah, and for this kind, you need to apply this. And all of that is
Long list of rules. Yeah.
yeah, a long list of rules. And you do one call to GPT 4.0. That's what they were doing, and so it works like 6 times out of 10 because you're giving too much information at a time, and you're actually asking complex questions about different things. So the LLMs will tend to mix up the information and mix up the questions and the answers. So to get the job done, you need to do it like a proper job, like someone would do it, like a human would do it. You take the items one by one. So yeah, first you extract the information and you get a list of items, line items in the expense report. So you need to have an actual list in the software sense of it, so that you can do a loop and go over each item one at a time. And with this item, then before you apply the rule, you need to know what kind of item it is, because it's not the same rule for food and transportation and office supplies. So you need to categorize it. And then you call a sub workflow that is specialized on applying the rules to this kind of expense. And so if you do it step by step like that, you get well, you get perfect reliability instead of failing one times out of three. You get something very reliable, and it's actually cheaper because you can get it done with a cheaper AI model because you're asking smaller questions with smaller context windows. You give less information, so it works much better.
So I think what you're saying is this can be better applied to, let's say, there is a process wherein I'm a consumer, I'm dealing with some kind of a business or a service wherein I'm going through the steps of, let's say, creating an account, wherein I'm uploading documents, I'm giving some information, or I'm referencing a URL, and it's going to kind of pick up structured, unstructured, a combination of all this,
Yeah,
and then run the process. And then you can actually define every sub process and assign
yeah,
it different data sets to kind or rules for each sub process, and then to make sure
yeah.
that the entire workflow works.
Yeah, and so the pipelines are made of pipes. So that's how you break down a large problem into smaller problems. And the pipes can call other pipes, so they can call other pipes which are created by someone else in your team or someone from a different company. This is the part I was hinting to earlier about having a community sharing those pipelines because everyone is solving the same
Yeah,
problems in every company right now.
yeah,
Everybody is reinventing the wheel. The reason for that is that we don't have a standard, so you cannot share, if you build a workflow with a N8N, you can't share it with someone who's doing LandGraph. You can't share it with someone who's doing Crew AI, or all of those things are incompatible. All of them come from vendor lock-in because you still don't have an open standard for that issue of telling the AI how to do a job always the same way. So once we have the standard, you can share all that. And what we've added to make this standard really efficient is that the pipes can call other pipes. So you can have a sub process which was developed by someone else in another company. And we saw that really working because, for instance, we worked with design partners in banking regarding credit applications, mortgage, stuff like that. So you need to extract a lot of information from different kinds of documents. So you need to identify what is this document. Is it the ID card, or is it the purchase deal, or is it the tax document? And you extract all this information, and then in the end, you want all the information to enter the ERP so that they can do a scoring, on the application. And they have this need in banking, but then you go to an insurance company and they have the same
yeah.
needs. So are we going to solve that? How many times are we going to solve that? And is it going to be a software development project with Python coders and all of that? I'm saying no. It's a job for a mix of AI and software, where you tell it how to do the job in a simple script, and that's what we're bringing, the
Yeah, I
tool to do
know.
that.
I can completely relate to the this example because I was associated with a company that was doing enterprise automations earlier, and we had the exact same scenario. It was with two insurance clients. Both of them are in insurance.
Yeah.
Exact same scenario, exact same workflow. However, their needs through various checkpoints in the workflow were different. So we had to actually, think through, yeah, customize it for each of them separately because what they wanted through those processes at every step of this process were very different. The data sets they needed, the way they handled the customer journey was very different. So it gets tricky that way, but then it should be easy enough to customize, is what I get from
Yeah.
what you say.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. It's like when you started to create a website for the first time, and you start from examples and you pick up some code and you customize it. This is the level we're aiming for. You grab something that exists and you customize it, or you grab something that exists and you call it. For instance, the part that is extracting information from an invoice, for instance, you know, you don't need to reinvent the wheel for that. You need to have a community sharing. There are different ways to do it, and pick the one that works the best for the price point, and just get it to work, and not having that to be an R&D project.
Got it. So I understand you say developers right now, but then developers who work in small, medium enterprises or large enterprises, what is your focus area? Where do you think is the right place where adoption of something new, because you mentioned it's a new standard, right?
Yeah,
And it is something that you will need people to kind of adopt
yeah, we
for
did
it
a
to
lot.
get more momentum.
We did a lot of discovery, and recently we onboarded many teams. And it's funny, we onboarded like students from there, AI association, and also startups and scale-ups and large companies, even large international banks. So
Oh,
we
nice.
we tried them all. They all have the same need. They all, not exactly the same, but the same kind of problem. This is why we think Pipelex needed to be done, because it's the pattern of making the AI working, which is common to all those companies. So potentially we can be used in all of those companies. Of course, we know that we'll find more adoption with small developer teams, independent developers, startups, and all the way up to, scale-ups and tech-savvy companies, of course, are going to be a way to go to start this. But at some point, we saw that in banks, they have teams of engineers. Sometimes the engineers who get tasked to the AI development, they're the guys who did data AI or data scientists, and they, they have the product manager and the hierarchy who are asking automate all of that stuff, and they end up with this problem on their desk, and they're trying to find the ways to do it. And we found that we can enter those companies because we're open source. Selling to a large company, you need to go through their purchase procedures. You need to go through compliance, security. All of that is insurmountable for an early stage startup. Okay, you need to be SOC 2 and all of that. Except if you're open source. If you're open source, you can target directly the engineer. You don't have to go through a purchase or a compliance. It's transparent code, so there's no issue of security. It's pip install Pipelex like they would do pip install anything, pip install pandas if you want to do Python work on data. And this is what they do all day. So they don't really need authorization to do that. So we think they will start adopting Pipelex once it's big enough to be on their radar. Currently, we're at like 180 stars on GitHub. So this is really, really early stage.
Got it.
We are launching, we'll publish our show HN article in a couple of days.
Okay.
So we hope to grow with small teams and then get adoption from all the companies in
Nice.
the end.
It's interesting that you mentioned that developers in even larger companies are open to try this out, because what I've seen when it comes to anything that trains on their proprietary data or their proprietary workflow processes, right? They're a little bit wary of it, right?
Yeah, but if it's
Enterprises
running if
especially.
it's running on their computer, it's within their walls. It's running on their computers. So this is how you make them smile and make them open.
Got it. Yeah, yeah. Just that. So uh is Pipelex leading the whole charge against proprietary frameworks that OpenAIs of the world are trying to build out?
I don't have anything against proprietary software. Not Um, I like both. Okay. Currently, this is our first. Pipelex is my first open source project,
Okay.
and I think it depends on what you're doing. But we're using, we use a lot of proprietary AI. We're using a lot of Claude 4.5 Sonnet, for instance, is our
Okay.
go-to model for creating the workflows. And these guys are doing awesome work, so we're happy to use their stuff. We decided to go open source because once we realized that how we were solving the use cases of the companies we're seeing was building, was taking the shape of a language. The question was, who's going to use this language? Like our clients. So everyone should be able to use this language, and so we need to make it a standard. If you want to be a standard, you need to be open source, MIT licensed, so no restrictions or hidden business model that is going to, cause you problems or vendor locking of any kind. So I'm happy to have access to the commercial APIs of closed software companies because they are doing such an amazing work, and that's how they justify maybe their valuation and how they pay for their GPUs. So I'm profiting from it. So I'm not going to complain.
Yeah, fair. So when it comes to enterprise workflows, I understand you say that developers are more than happy to try things out on their own machines. But when you have to go from pilot or from test to doing actual project pilot and then getting into a paid model, that whole path, starting with security related requirements, right? Second is obviously enterprises today, they're realizing the challenges with implementing AI at scale, right? So reliability becomes a big problem.
Yeah.
Observability becomes a big problem, right? They need to be able to be very clear in terms of how things are being inferred. So when it comes to all this, where do you think Pipelex lies in this whole cycle?
Well, first, this issue of understanding, well, reliability and understanding how it worked, how it came to make a decision. Transparency is something that Pipelex is helping with because we don't have a black box effect. That's the idea also. When you give a bigger prompt to an LLM and it answers something, you don't know how it answered. Nobody knows how it answered. There's no
Yeah.
way even to backtrace the neural network and know how it came up with the answer. If you do it step by step, extracting information and you have all the history of the run of the workflow, you can audit it very efficiently. Even more so because our language is conceptual, so there is a lot of sense in the scripts itself. It reads like documentation, so it's really self-explanatory, and so we can have AI understand how the workflow works and debug or analyze itself. So we're providing many tools that make this very easy to do, and it brings more reliability. Because as you said, large companies or well, actually any size of company have trouble going from proof of concept to production, really because it does not work. We had the impression that it's going from a demo to a live product that makes it harder. No, it's just that if you have a demo that fails one time out of five, it means that it works four times out of five, and if your demo is working four times out of five, you're a star. You're going there and there
Yeah,
making
yeah,
the
yeah.
demo,
Of
and
course.
everybody, and you have 80% of the people you come across who are talking about, wow, so an amazing demo. The demo does not show you the 20% cases that utterly fail.
Yeah.
So the reliability is necessary for going into production, and that's been our fight from the beginning. For instance, at Pipelex, we have never used vector stores and embeddings, which were all the rage in 23, 24, and I know some people still use it. There are some cases where they can be useful, but if you want reliability, then that doesn't work. And I think mathematically it's impossible for those kind of embeddings to have be subtle enough for you to be sure that the instructed information you got is the proper information. So we're not using that. So we're only using stuff that really works, and we're providing ways to review automatically and be sure of what's working.
Okay.
Now, of course, you were talking about enterprise and security compliance and all that. We'll go there, but someday. And I think someday, like I'm thinking 2027. So of course, at that time, if we succeed in getting traction, adoption, and becoming, a standard, then we'll do enterprise features, and those will be paid products. But we'll always keep the language open and free, and the runtime will also always be open and free, because we don't want any restriction on people using our language. And we have other ideas for our business model. And, it will take the shape of, side services like a service to optimize your workflows for you. Uh, AI has this issue of reliability and cost, and so optimizing workflow for us is multiplying the reliability by 10, which means going from 90% reliability to 99. You divide the failures by 10 and dividing the cost by 10. So 10 times less failures, 10 times less cost. I think this is really important because there's a wide range of pricing between the small models and the big models, even if you run it yourself. I mean, the factors is like 100 to 200 scale between small models and big models. So we'll help people drive down the cost of the workflows while improving the reliability.
So I've made a few notes earlier on things I wanted to ask you. So just going through that. So why did you think of a language rather than a tool?
Yeah. Uh, the way we worked is that we were solving use cases that I told you as a consulting company. And we realized that we were using the same patterns because people, this was early 2024, and nobody had like a list of use cases because, McKinsey had not been through them yet. So they didn't have like their shopping list of AI use cases. And so nobody asked us for a chatbot with a rack. Okay.
Hmm.
They asked us, well, they didn't ask anything. They told us how they worked, and we designed how we could help them. And for instance, our first client was a big law firm, a big partner who was writing contracts like, shareholder agreements and then from a term sheet, for big fundraising and all those kind of documents. The issue was, can you write a shareholder agreement for me with your AI? And so we devised that we had to do it step by step. This is how we came with the workflow, write clause by clause. If you try to write the contract in one go, it will not work. And so this is the kind of pattern that we saw in completely different settings, different companies. We need to get the AI to work step by step. So we were writing those tools. And at some point with my engineering team, we looked at each other and said, okay, we can always use the same code for all the different use cases for all the same clients. So we decided at some point, we said, now nobody is allowed to have a single line of code. Actually, it was in Python. So not a single line of Python code, which is specific to a use case or a client. So the code has to be generic. So when you do that, all that is specific about the use case goes into a different file, a data file, where you have the context, the definitions of the words, the questions, and the definition of the steps and the prompts. And and this, when we try to, sort it out and make it more structured and clean, that was a language. It's a
Okay.
declarative language. So it really, this idea of the language for AI workflows is really built itself naturally by solving real problems in the real world and
Okay.
trying to do it methodically.
Got it. And do you see in your vision now that this language is gonna evolve to be much more robust as we go along with more and more people contributing to the concepts of it? Meaning it's like, so again, I'm relating it to regular language, right? Meaning
Yeah.
colloquial languages, once defined, they don't evolve further unless you have generations that kind of twist and create slangs, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Take English, for example, right? So in this case, when it comes to a technical language, do you see that? Or is it well defined enough wherein you have considered most of the common statements, let's say, to manage any kind of workflow?
Well, it is meant to evolve, and it's actually, we can still speak of it at the present. It's being built, still the process of being built, and because we want to make it a standard for the community, we don't want to build it just ourselves. We want to bring people in and, have their say in it and bring their use cases. And so we'll see how the language faces those other use cases and those other ideas. And right now we're just at the bare minimum. We can have large language models, we have vision models, we have OCR and document extraction models and image generation. And we know
Right.
there are so many other things that need to be plugged in there. So that's why we made it modular, and we make it possible for developers to add plugins, either in the main core library or on their own plugins. They could make work with that. So we know it's going to evolve a lot. Now, a good point of comparison we have in mind is SQL. SQL language is a declarative language, and it's been around for decades, and it's supported by many, many different databases, which have been developed by different people with different languages on different computers. The fundamental property of a declarative language of not bothering with the technicalities of how it is implemented. You say, I want this and that, and just make it happen. Okay. And
Right.
which we're basing our language at the same level. This is why also we are planning to have implementation of this language based on other stacks, other tech stacks than our own is just an example of, see, this is how we can make this language
Make it.
run,
Yeah.
and you can try it. Now, there's another point, which is, as I told you, we're very high level. So what we're doing with our language is transcribing the business logic, the requirements of the client and his business logic into something structured and without ambiguity, just so that it's clear enough that we can get it done by a mix of AI and software. Okay, this is fundamentally different from what I think all of our competitors are doing. They are all thinking from the ground up and wrapping APIs and saying, okay, we'll build a layer of abstraction so that the APIs looks user friendly, and sometimes it takes the shape of a visual user interface. Visual user interface is easy to use computer in the 1980s. Okay, this is the 1990s with Windows 95. This is the old school user friendly. Now user friendly means that the machines can do it for you,
Hmm.
but it's also an illusion to imagine that the system, that the computer will understand exactly what you want and deliver exactly what you need from the get-go, because what you need is not very clear. So you will need to iterate, and even sometimes you have an idea and you get it done by the computer, and you can get the workflow done by Pipelex that will create a workflow for you, and you look at it and you say and you think, wow, this is exactly what I wanted. But when you look at it, it gives you another idea. So you still want to go further.
To refine it. Yeah.
And so because we're working at that level of understanding the business need and the business logic, we are foolproof for the future, because even when the AI is super smart, like artificial super intelligence or whatever, you still need a client in the loop, even if you don't need a human in the loop, because the AI is so powerful and intelligent, doesn't need help from the human, but it still need the human to say, yeah, this is what I wanted or not, and this is some other criteria or some critique I want to make, and the client is always right, so you have to listen to the client. And so we make it easy for the client to really express their need. And in the future, we expect LLMs to continue and become much smarter. And we also expect new kinds of AIs to come around, new paradigm. Maybe it will not even be transformers. I know there is a diffusion models, different kinds of AI, probably on the track to AGI and ASI are going to come along. We want our language to still be relevant when that happens. So maybe you don't have to take 4 steps now to extract information from a contract. It's just 1 step because the AI is so smart. But then if that is the case, we're just going to go up and up and up in the requirements. So instead of having like extract all the relevant information from this request for quotation, tell me, what the features, extract the feature need from this RFQ. We'll go up, and when we'll go to the point where we'll say, how do I win this RFQ? How do I get this business? How do I win with this client? And how do I make my company win? When the AI has become smarter, we can move up the abstraction layer and do always more stuff up there instead of going down.
That's fair, but I'm kind of taking it a step down again, wherein looking at businesses, right? They have very well defined and okay, this is kind of I'm trying to connect the two things you said. You said most people today are building from a way wherein they have existing products, they have APIs, and they're kind of trying to wrap it up and making it easier for people to consume their APIs. You're saying you're doing it the other way around, where you're giving them a language where they can just query and create these new connectors that work better. Am I correct here?
When I said our competitors are wrapping APIs, I'm thinking about, all this fashion of visual editors for
Yeah. I get it. I get it. So, for example, I have a product that works in a certain way, and I say, okay, fine. Now we're going to give you a quick. It's like a Zapier or a Make interface where you can
yeah,
just kind of put in a command
yeah.
and the
But you
connectors are there
but
in
you
the
still
backend.
you
Yeah.
need to go click, 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 and you still need to do the engineering, thinking of the workflow. Now, we're seeing also those visual builders, they are releasing agentic modes where you can prompt and the agent will supposedly create the workflow for you. But contrary to us, they were not agent first. They didn't have this in mind from the beginning. So it's like they're adding a feature on top of things. So it's not their philosophy from the basis. So whereas Pipelex, this is what we have done in mind from the beginning. So when we design a language, we designed it for collaboration between human and AI, right, from the ground up. Many times we changed the language because the agents, when they were looking at the language, they were using a different words than the words that we were using. So at the beginning, we were like, oh, this is a bug. I'm going to prompt more efficiently to tell it, use this word, not that word. But, it didn't work. So we just used the word that the AI wanted us to use.
Okay.
So what, what I want to convey is that this, this is a new topic. Let me take a step back, uh, we had software. And at some point, if you're a human and you want something done by the machine, you had to have software. And then, so the software needs to be coded, written by people, and then the software needs to be run, and then you have a user. And so you have a user interface to the software. This is the paradigm we've been with since the 1970s, and it became graphical in the 80s. But now it's different. You have a machine that can think, that is intelligent. I know some people say the contrary, but I'm uh, I'm very clear on my point of view on that. It's understanding and it's intelligent. And so the question of how does the human get something done by the machine is not limited to this software paradigm. Now, there's a big issue, which is how does the human get the machine to understand what they want? And that is the point. And have the machine understand what the human want is not a software user interface. It's not the good way. Okay. What the human wants is something blurry. They can talk about it. They can maybe draw a flow chart on a whiteboard to explain this is what I want. Traditionally, the way to explain what the user wants to a computer has been to write code, which requires several layers of engineering, project management, QA testing, and all of that, all of the software engineering process. Now it's different. You can prompt and have an AI understand what you want. So this is the new part, the new paradigm where we are working. And that's why we're focusing on transcribing the user need into something clear and structured. Because if it's clear and structured, you can give it back to the human that can check it and say, yeah, that's what I want done. And then you can give it to the machine to run it.
Got it. No, no, I understood that. I'm just trying to figure out where the product fits in terms of adoption, which is why my question on how you compare with what others are
Yeah.
doing.
So, but the comparison is also in the efficiency of the process. It's not, we're not just doing that because philosophy, we think it's cool.
Mm.
We're doing this because it works. And by that, I mean, like 3 months ago, we had our first version of an agent creating a workflow for us. But it was the agent from Cursor. We gave it Cursor rules, and it took 5 minutes of trial and error, making syntax errors, having our system point out the errors, having the agent iterate on that. Just like when you do code, when the coding agent, it's always writing and then creating its own bugs and mistakes. It took 5 minutes. We improved the system. Now it's down to 1 minute because we're not using an agent like a Cursor agent or Cloud Code to write the workflow. We're using a Pipelex workflow to write the Pipelex workflow. So
Okay.
this is a concept. It's inception level dog fooding. I mean, we have a workflow and it's all open source. You can see the script of the workflow that writes the workflow. And it takes a minute to a minute and a half. So it's very fast and it delivers a structured workflow, which is already validated for you. So compare that to how many days do you need of engineering to create a workflow nowadays in Python or with a visual interface? It's hours, days, tens of minutes. So we're winning on the efficiency side. And plus, we have this open standard play, which means that there is no standard today for AI workflows. And have you seen anyone say we're proposing a standard for AI workflows? No, nobody's
Oh.
proposing that. So we're the first ones also to take that spot.
No, that's pretty interesting. And my curiosity when you were talking about that is more about what would be a typical prompt for to have Pipelex build out a Pipelex workflow like that. Because in my head, it's all about you need to have very clear rules set for it.
The system of pipes is a rule set. Each pipe has a contract. This is
Mm.
what it takes as input. This is the
Yeah,
output, and this is what it does.
right.
So that's how we can plug them with each other with Legos and stuff.
So, what are the early adopters so far? What have you seen them building using Pipelex?
Analyzing banking documents, extracting the information. Extracting the information is just the first step. So, like a lot of people are working on extracting information because if you haven't extracted the information, you cannot do anything with it at that point. So
Yeah, yeah.
it's often the story often starts with a PDF, right? So we've done that, extracting banking information for purchasing credit loans and all of that.
Okay.
We also go to decision regarding the expense report validation, extract invoices, recoup the invoices with the expense, and go all the way to making a decision for the company. We have also worked in a different field. We explored also use cases in creativity. For
Okay.
instance, a fashion company who create garments for big brands. to do that, they need to answer requests for proposals, and so they need to create like 3,000 different designs a year. They're not only garment factories; they're also design factories, and they create a lot of ideas, and they're stealing many ideas from their competitors or from the fashion of the moment, the zeitgeist, or I don't know, or the trends, and they work from mood boards and stuff. And so we did that for a fashion company. We took the mood board sent by their client, a request for a new collection of clothing, analyze the mood board, understand what is the essence of the requirement and what can be variations around that, create some variations around that, and then generate renderings of like a fashion model wearing this clothing that doesn't exist. So they could go to the clients then and show them directly the photo of the garment that doesn't exist yet and get some feedback. And so if the client said, yeah, I like this one, then it would go and build, create a
Mm,
prototype and start working with a needle and
mm.
with tissue. Otherwise, they could create like 100 times faster proposals and answer many more requests than if they were doing it by hand. By that I mean creating prototypes.
So when you were talking about the workflow part of it earlier, the automation, repetitive stuff, most companies, legacy companies, most of their operational processes are standard, meaning they don't evolve too much. It'll be like 5% evolution over a period of maybe 5 years or 10 years or whatever it is. But most of the time, it is just everything is working as is.
Yeah.
Things are, it's like automation is set once and they forget about it, right? So when it comes to that, and you say efficiency of building, so if you have existing setups, how much of a case is it to say, okay, we need this now because we can build on from here on much faster? So isn't that kind of, and again, it's just a question to figure out, where the market lies for you. How big is that market, meaning where people are saying, okay, we need this product because it's going to improve our speed to evolve our own existing workflows?
Well, we see that in the tech-savvy companies, they already think maybe ahead of the curve. Like oh, hey, they read somewhere that AI can do this and do that, and they go to their developer teams and say, okay, now automate all of those workflows, and then the teams, and then they have these problems that we are trying to solve by bringing them tools. So the need is already expressed. Nowadays, it's mixed also with, development because, the reliability is not there. But the expression of the need is there, and there's a frustration. People would like these workflows, AI workflows, to work better and be cheaper to create and to maintain also, because there's a new AI model every week, so maintenance is very important. And that's why if you do this as a software project, it's really really hard to make it evolve. So we see also, I think it's very important to understand that there are existing processes, and we can help to make them
Better.
better with AI. Okay, human processes replaced by AI processes. But that's not the end of the story. The thing is, it's like when you had the industrial revolution and you had machines that could replace human labor, physical labor. What happened is not just that we replaced the humans and did the same amount of production. We started producing much more. If you take also the PC revolution, when they started, the killer app of the personal computer is the spreadsheet. It was invented on the Apple II, VisiCalc, and then it became big with Excel and Lotus 123. And this was the reason people got PCs in companies, was for the spreadsheet. And before there were spreadsheets, how did you get the computer to do computation for you? You had to hire developers to create code that would do the computing for you. So it was very expensive, so you didn't do much. Now, if you have a business guy who's using Excel, maybe a startup founder who's writing his business plan, if you want to try different hypotheses, he's not going to think how much is it going to cost me to try this different hypothesis. Change something in a cell, and it works. What's happening is that we didn't just replace the old ways of doing computation by the spreadsheet. Also, because now it's so easy, we have many more people doing it, and they're doing much, much, much more computation. It's so easy to do computation. You can have a spreadsheet with 10 different sheets, formulas and it's all, refreshing in real time. So it's so efficient, so you do much more. So this is what I predict in companies. after playing around, replacing existing workflows and realizing that we have this smart thing that can do a lot instead of doing what we did before, which was limited by the human capacity, by the availability of smart humans to do the work, and sometimes skilled humans, actually, not just any kind of human, the right skills. So you were limited. And that's how you design the workforce in company with this limit in mind. Now, if we break free from this limit and you understand that you can run AIs, do a lot of things, and you can create new workflows in 2 minutes, then you imagine a future where there will be much, much, much more intelligent workflows in companies doing all the intellectual, all the knowledge work of the companies. This is where we're heading. So part of it will be orchestrated by autonomous agents with the capacity for initiative and adapting to different situations. And part of it will be done by deterministic workflows like those running on Pipelex. And both will collaborate. I mean, the agent will use existing deterministic workflows or create new ones when it needs new ones. This is why we're in the MCP game too. So the market is much larger than existing workflows. And I'll go even further. I think a lot of how companies work and whole economies work in the knowledge sector is product of this constraint of we only have this amount of human cognition because we only have this amount of people, working for companies. And a lot of how they work, of companies work, is work around because we don't have infinite cognitive capacities. And it's so natural that we don't see it. For me, it's a big elephant in the room. We can't see it. It's too big. Our face is in it. Of course, you can't do that because, we don't have the staff. We don't have the human resources. Take, for instance, audit. Auditing has one major feature of auditing is sampling. You're going to audit a few samples to check that everything is done the way it should be. Why are you just checking samples? Because you don't have the manpower to check everything. Exhaustive auditing is going to be something real soon. And so another example, and actually it fits well with this story of the RAG, chatbot and RAG. It's the idea of search. And now you have AI search, which is smarter than, keyword search. Okay, it's smarter. But why do you search? You're searching your database in your company database because you want to find one answer or one thing about one thing. You're searching because you don't have time to reread everything. Well, okay, so it's always a way to go faster. You're trying to get the relevant documents because you don't have time to read all the documents. And maybe in some documents you would have just one piece of information that will be useful, but you're just searching and getting like an extract, an abstract, a summary of what you have time to deal with because of your limited time of cognitive work on it. So raising these limits, getting rid of these limits is going to be very, very transformative.
Isn't most of the functional stuff that is available today in orgs, it is need based, right? Meaning if a user now, as you mentioned, search, if I'm searching for a certain extract of a documentation, I understand when you say that it's about a limited time, so we are searching to and we're looking at a summary. But I don't want to go through all those documents to find that one particular, piece of information because I don't have the time. That is one thing. But my need is I want that specific information only. So, for example, when you have an employee who's asking about a specific thing, let's say leave policy as an example, that employee is expecting to get an answer from the system that is relevant to them and not everyone else or anyone else. For example, depending on your level in the organization, depending on your role in the organization, you may have specific benefits. So you only want to see that. You don't want to go through the entire document reading
Yeah,
through something that's not relevant to you, right? So that's my need, for example. So I think it is more about the users having very specific needs relevant to only what impacts them, which drives all these kind of innovations. Do
yeah.
you agree with that?
Well, in your example, you have a user in the loop, which is
Yeah.
already a specific case.
Yeah.
Processes can, be userless. It's just something that needs to run every time we receive this, every time we send that. Some processes need to happen. Here, you put a human in the loop.
Which is the context,
And of course,
right?
so I'm calling him the client in the loop because he knows, more or less what he wants, or he's the one who can agree and say, yeah, this is what I wanted. And so, yeah. So, but I don't know exactly what your question is, but I mean, this is
No,
a
I was
case.
just, I was
No,
not, it was not a question. I was just kind of making a statement in
yeah.
terms of
And so
how
well,
functionality is developed most of the times, right?
yeah, but so if you think of, let me put it this way. At first sight, when you see this person in front of a search box or in front of the chat box, you would interpret this situation as he's asking a question, and the role of the service is to answer the question. Okay? This is the and actually saying that it's answering question is not saying much because there are many different kinds of questions. And if this user is asking for a question and the answer is somewhere, for instance, somewhere in the documentation, then you could consider that search is going to answer his question. But maybe his question has an answer that is not that not exist in the document. It's like if I asked you, if I give you a a math test, and you're trying to answer it, you're not supposed to look up the answer to the math exercise in your books. You're supposed to think the and construct the answer to the question. So in your case, when this user has specific need, and you said, for instance, part of his need is he wants a customized answer to his specific context, then answering the question is not going to be find this clause in this document and paste it on his screen. It's going to there will be a part to understanding his context. So what in his context is relevant to this question, and then finding the elements where they are in documents or elsewhere, and bringing those documents and making sense of it to build the answer. Build the answer does not mean just retrieve and serve it splash on the screen. Build the answer can be thinking step by step about what it means and how to really answer it. So this is actually a use case where you can have a combo. You should have a combo. I think the real solution to that is having a combo of autonomous agent and deterministic workflow. The autonomous agent brings the adaptability so that it can take, any question goes. You can ask me anything, and
Yeah.
I'm a trained agent, and I'm going to say, no, I can't help you with that. You wanted, I don't know, movie times in theaters. I'm not here for that. I'm here to help you with HR questions, for instance. Drive the conversation on this exchange, get more information if it's needed, for instance, clarifying a point, etc. This is a good job for an agent. Advising the overall strategy to answer a specific question is also a good job for an agent. And then when the agent needs to use tools, and sometimes it should be able to use tools which use AI, which are actually workflows. A tool that uses AI, for instance, the agent would say, I need to explain to you to answer your question about this from that document. And so I need to extract the information from the document in a specific shape and extract structured information so that the dates are dates and the numbers, the values are values. How long have you been in the company is a difference of date between your date of arrival and the date of today, for instance. So you need to have an AI understand that. It needs to extract the date of your arrival, take today's date and compute the difference. And this should be done by software. It's not a job of an LLM to do a difference of dates. So part of the process should be well written, well optimized, and should work always the same. And part of the process should be adaptable in real time to the needs of the user.
Which brings us to the very important point wherein using your product, can somebody build intelligent workflows like this, wherein I may be doing some, okay, let's, very simple example is I'm running a business and there is customer care that I'm providing and I'm automating that customer care process. Customer care, customers are writing to me through an email, so which is unstructured data that's coming in.
Mhm.
I am reading that and I need to make sure that my automation builds in the right context about the level of the customer. Is it a basic level, mid level, premium level customer? And based on that, I may have business rules that are defined that if it is a premium customer and they have a problem with this, these are their allowances, and then it should understand that. So there'll be math involved, right? And
Mhm.
then it talks back, and then the AI part of it is going to kind of generate the correct construct of what to send back to that person as an email. right? It's customer service. So something like this can be easily built, is
Yeah,
what you
absolutely.
anticipate.
Yeah, yeah. Because for instance, you'll have a bunch of rules about, what makes a client a premium client, and those rules will be based on data that you want, that is already in your system, or maybe data that is in his email, or data that,
It could be
uh,
customer profile information out of the CRM, right? As simple as that.
yeah. But if it's already structured, then you have rules. It's pretty easy. So you have the AI part, which is really the new part, is where you read this email and you understand, is it a user giving feedback or requesting a feature or
Yeah,
complaining about a billing issue, or
correct.
maybe it's a spam that has nothing
Yeah.
to do with
Yeah.
anything.
So you should be able to triage it correctly.
Yeah, you could triage, and you could understand. Well, the triage can be very subtle. It's not just I'm driving this email towards billing support. But maybe you want more. Maybe you want a priority level, and maybe I don't know. Maybe you'll detect other stuff that's relevant and that's hidden in the wording of the email. But you need this intelligent part.
It could be like, this is the fourth time that person is communicating on the same topic. And then okay, this needs to be escalated because the guy is going to be upset. Things like
Yeah.
that. You never know,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah. I had the case in customer support, exactly that case.
Oh,
It
okay.
was it was the fifth time I was asking for reimbursement on something
Mm.
related to insurance stuff, and they told me again, it's not possible for that reason. But I had to tell them, no, no, there is a special case where it's possible, and like the previous times when I had to call you every time to tell you again.
Yeah.
So they didn't have the history of our exchanges, so they didn't have the history of the problems that we had encountered and solved. So yeah, clearly this is something that is very interesting in the aggregate, because this is not structured. You cannot structure the interpretation of the 10 different connection that this client has had with customer support. So you have to take all this data to an LLM and get something out of it that says, that brings an additional element to how you're going to treat the request.
Yeah. So enterprise use cases and scenarios, I have a dime a dozen that pop into my mind because,
Yeah,
for example, we've all been users, right? We've been consumers as subscribers of an account, and we've faced that typical call to somebody when you had to keep on verifying yourself. That is one. Second is, even after all that verification through an IVR or even through an agent, they still don't have context of what kind of an account do you hold. And then they'll again ask you mundane questions. You're wasting your time just telling them who you are and what you're trying to do and what you need, right? That's super frustrating for so many people.
yeah, that's where the market is right now, realizing that context is very important. And w- you know, we this is part of the issues that we faced in our use cases.
Mm.
So we made our language, our Proprietary language, to make it easy to insert the context into the workflow. At one point also, we started to build specific tools to, address all the documents and find all the context in there. But we decided that we would focus on the workflow part. And you know why? We decided that because we understood that if I want to go through all the documents of the company and all the different kinds of elements and find all the relevant context, I need a workflow to do that. So let's build the workflow system first, because if we're trying to, tell an AI, a mix of AI and software, an agentic system, how to build context from, any kinds of databases, it's going to be ugly specific code. So we need this extra layer of workflow. And so now people, when they need to build the context, they can use our system. And actually, I have a use case for that, which is exactly that. It's a company that it's a hotel company, very large hotel company. They have deals with thousands of hotels. They don't own the hotel, so they have a deal with the hotel owners. And but when the business people need to interact with the hotels, they need to know what's in the deal. And the deal, it's a 20 years old deal with four
Mm.
appendix and new versions of the contract. So
Right.
it's 300 pages, and so they thought we have to put all the information in the database for easy access. For what? Well, once you have the information extracted from the contract in the database, because they're all the same kinds of contract, Not two of them have been written by the same lawyer, so they all
Hmm.
look different. They're all talking about the same kind of business points of the specific deal. So once you have extracted all the information, then you have the context that you can provide to, okay, you can provide it directly to a business user who wants to look up the form and see what, what is the rule for this contract. But you can also provide it to an agent. Once you have that in the database, you can have a chatbot, and when you ask a question, it will devise an actual query on the database to find the relevant information and put that in the context. And it's way more powerful than any kind of, embedding a vector store search because you've already structured the information you need for the context. And so instead of the, vector search, which is like a magic wand, you get something that, works. Doing actual queries on stuff that has been extracted from documents. So extracting information from documents and analyzing it is how you get the blocks for building the context.
Great. And I'm assuming that you also have worked on cases where you're adding human in the loop because every time someone has to approve the workflow so that it goes into production and becomes like a regular thing and things like that, right? That whole reinforcement part has to be retained, correct?
Yeah, we're early stage on that part because
Okay.
we focused on just running workflows from beginning
Okay.
input to output. So we have a
Okay.
human at the input and a human at the output, and we're making it easy to debug and optimize the stuff because there are pipelines and you can run pipes separately. And we're still building the tools to give you super efficient vision through the workflow. And we'll add the validation tools also, the conceptual validation that will verify that the workflow is not just running mechanically, but it's that it makes sense. I'll give you an example, and this is a big problem in the LLM field. Imagine you have an LLM query that is going to answer with take some information, unstructured information in, and give you something structured out. And let's say, for instance, you take a non-compete clause, for instance, in a employment contract, and you want to extract, I don't know, the duration and some conditions about that. So the input of this process is a string, it's text. But the real use case here is that what you want as input is a non-compete clause. So if as input, instead of getting a non-compete clause, you got something else, I don't know, the address, for instance, of the employee, what is going to happen? Well, the LLM, being constrained to generate something structured, is going to hallucinate the content, and you'll be left with garbage, because garbage in, garbage out. Even if you have a bug in your system, and for instance, the text that came in was empty, it's a bug. No string, empty string. So here it's going to invent John Doe, 35, a non-compete clause is 6 months. It's total hallucination. So to solve that, we create the idea of a conceptual layer. So when you create the workflow and you have something like that, you're not just saying, I want a string as input, like they would do in the APIs. The API wrappers do that. They want a string, any string. We say, I want a non-compete clause. So I define the concept on non-compete clause. So I name it non-compete clause. I have a natural language description of what it is and possibly a structure for it. For instance, here, non-compete clause is going to be a paragraph of text, so no structure, but you define the concept. And so our system will be in a few days. I would just have to implement this part. Will be capable of detecting that the input was not the right concept. It will tell you, I wanted a non-compete code, but this looks like an address. So I'm not going to follow up with that. I'm going to stop it and say, I have a bug here.
Right.
And if you didn't detect it in the workshop for any reason, and it's happening in production, you would get garbage out or detect something fishy, and you will have an agent system that can go through the workflow and look up at every step if what we got in was what we needed as input and what we got out was the kind of thing we needed at the output. This is a new era of collaboration between AI and human in fixing things. This is something very singular to Pipelex. I've seen this nowhere. Building new workflow system that you can code in Python or in TypeScript or with a visual builder. This language, where you explain things really clearly, is completely new. And in computer programming, a lot of the business logic is the name of the variables, the name of the functions, and the comments. All of that is invisible to the computer that's running the program. The computer doesn't care how you named your variable or how you named your function. It doesn't see that. This is only messages for the developer and especially for the colleague of the developer that comes and sees this code and needs to understand what it does. In Pipelex, as I told you, the code reads like documentation. So there is nothing hidden. So the definition of the name of the variable, the description of the variable, the comments, everything is part of the workflow definition. So you don't need to add any comment. And the computer that is running the script knows what it's doing. How does it know it? It's written in there in plain English.
So you're validating the input that is required to generate some kind of an output. Is that unique? You're saying it's unique to Pipelex?
Well, having it in the language definition, yes. People now are doing evals and different
Yeah.
kinds of tools to verify how AI is working. So at some point in their system, you have to have someone type in somewhere.
Yeah.
This is what it's supposed to do. This is how to check it. But it's typed somewhere else than the workflow itself. It's like, the documentation is separate from
Mm.
the description of the job. In Pipelex, it's the same thing because what we're addressing is how does the client tell the computer what it wants it to do. That's why the workflow code, the workflow script is the documentation of the workflow.
Is that the key moat that you have?
Well, that's the singularity. It's not a mode, especially since it's open source,
Yeah.
MIT license. So anybody can
No,
come and
okay.
run with it.
Let me rephrase. This is basically not really a moat from a product perspective, but moat in terms of having the advantage over others who are trying to do something similar. Or
Yeah, and it's absolutely, and it's fundamental because we've seen it. We've seen that if you don't have that, there are
Mm.
many important things that are not going to work. They are not going to be doable.
Absolutely. I completely get that. Because basic thing we've all struggled with automating invoice processing, and then the OCR model has to be trained with so many templates. There itself is a pain point, right? We know it's so
Yeah,
I completely understand where you're coming from on this.
yeah. And also it's a personal, well, it's an experience in our team. When we realized what we were doing and we
Hmm.
wrote concept and then blah blah equals blah blah and it was okay. We're just putting it all in there and it's exactly what needs to be in there. There's nothing extra. There's nothing missing.
Mm.
And it's in the same file. And this is a eureka moment. And then we looked over the place. Is anyone doing that? No,
Mm.
we're the first ones to do that. So now
It
we need to
also
shout about it.
it also helps you build super customized workflows from every setup. Meaning, if I have the same business as someone else who's next door, but my documentation requirements, my validation requirements, my process requirements may be very different based on what my product is, or what my service is, or what my business is all about. So this allows me to do that customization, which is unique to me, and it's easy. So
And
that
you
way.
could take you could take didn't insist much on that, but the coding agents they also can talk and write and read without language. So you could take an existing workflow that is similar but different from what you need and just tell it, okay, I got this workflow, but here are the specifics of my business, and
Yeah. So adapt
apply
it.
it,
Yeah.
adapt it. It's going to do it right away.
Yeah. Yeah.
We also had the sure that will be in our playground when we open it. You have people that I told you that came to us with mega prompts with a lot
Hmm.
of rules and
Yeah.
do this,
Yeah.
do that, and then do this and that, and step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in a prompt. You can take that and give it to our system. And it will transform those multiple steps into actual steps. So you don't need to write the code or interpret it. Coding agents, they do it perfectly, and our system also can do it. So this is so much fun. It's also a big part of it. I mean, if it's quick and fun to create a workflow, you're going to do many more of them.
Of course.
And you'll be thinking, I didn't think I would use a workflow for that, but now that it's easy and
Yeah.
fun to
Yeah.
do, maybe I'll do it.
Yeah.
Oh, if it's not a 2 day project or 2 weeks project, no, it's a 2 minutes. Oh, I'll just try. I'll just see how it goes. And it's the same feeling that we had initially when we came to ChatGPT, and you started prompting stuff, and we're like, oh, that's funny, and you can play around with it and challenge it a bit
Hmm.
because it's fast and doesn't require you to overthink. It doesn't require you to do the engineering. It's doing it for you, so you can try a lot of ideas very fast.
No, absolutely. Meaning it'll be insane if we could just, you could do a demo wherein, you know, you tell the client, okay, give me access to your, let's say you have a support email, let's plug that in. And then we will just tell this, we just create an automation which says triage, all incoming email based on spam goes into spam, customer related stuff goes into this email, that, and you just kind of bucket it, and you can do that in like 10 minutes. That's all they need most of the time.
Yeah.
It's a huge pain point.
That's what they need for now. This is what they think they need for now. And then will come the other
Yeah,
ideas like,
yeah,
oh, so we can also do this and do that.
yeah,
And
yeah. Correct.
you
Yeah.
unlock, you unlock,
Send 5 notifications to 5 different channels and do all kinds of stuff. Yeah. Fair. Awesome. So how about we take a look at the product?
yeah, sure. Okay. So let me show you how that works. We are opening soon this playground that lets you build an AI workflow, and it's not just with no code, it's with no hands. So here I have a prompt, okay, from a use case we came about. Take a CV in a PDF file, a job offer text, and analyze how they match. And based on that, propose 5 questions for the interview. Okay, so I just click generate, and then it's turning the brief into pseudocode and running a few steps, and I can show you the steps. Actually, I have the logs shown right here. Let me show you here. Okay, let me go. Well, wait a second. Okay, here it is. So this is the first part when it devises the plan. So it defines some concepts, the concept of a job offer, the concept of a match analysis, and here it's a structured concept. It also came with the concept of the question that you're going to ask during the interview, which has a question text and a rationale. This is all the system came to design those concepts, and they will be used in this. This is the plan. That's the first part that it did. It knows it's going to extract the CV text, analyze match, and then generate interview questions. And so there will be a main sequence that will execute first the CV analysis and interview preparation, and then this is the pipes that it will reference. So it's really doing like agents do today, which is start with coming up with a plan. Then it structures the concepts, and then it's going to structure the plan so that instead of just running the plan right now, it's going to transform it into our language. So this is a lot of structured generation, and I can show you the result which I ran just before this call. So it's not exactly the same names because it was another run of the software. But here we have a pipe sequence that is going to do these 3 steps: extract CV text, analyze match, and generate interview questions. And sorry, every step is defined right below. So the first one is going to do a text extraction from a PDF, and then we'll have an LLM do the analysis. And as I told you, the descriptions here are plain text. They are part of the information from the language, the prompts also, of course. And also every step here has a input and output, which are defined conceptually by the concepts here above. So the concept of match analysis, which is structured with strengths, gaps, areas to probe, and the concept of a question here. So when you run it, it's going to apply this process every time the same way. So if I want to run exactly the version you saw here, it was the one I did just before the call. So this is the script here. We have it in the playground. And here it detected if I want to run I can choose each pipe that I want to run. They can be run independently with their inputs and outputs. And I'm going to run the pipe sequence, the whole workflow here. And so the input is a CV that I can upload right here. And the job offer, but actually it's already typed there. Uh, it's a it's a job offer or a sales job. So it's really a text job offer that I just dropped in there. And so
Okay.
I can run it. Okay, it doesn't work. Let me try the new one. Okay, so I upload the CV and cut and paste the job offer. So of course, if I'm creating a workflow and running it just once, the kind of defeats the purpose. But the idea is that you have 500 CVs in your inbox, and so you'll run them through the process. And here, so it prepared the questions. So this is the final output of the workflow. And I can also see intermediate steps like the match analysis right here. This is not available yet. We haven't released it to publicly, but it's coming soon. And for now, we're not. It's not a SaaS product. This is just a demo playground that we put on a web
Got it.
page.
Yeah.
And the way to use the technology is either pip install Pipelex because it's a Python library, or use our server API. We'll have a Docker image coming out soon, the MCP server, the N8N node, so it will be usable everywhere. But
Mm.
before you run your workflow, maybe you want to try a few ideas, and we'll offer the playground will enable you to do that.
Now, this is interesting because this gives the user a way to test out the workflow, meaning you're designing the workflow, you're looking at the output, you're giving it the inputs that you have, and
Yeah,
you're seeing whether it's accurate enough.
yeah,
And then you
and you
can
can
go
try
back
it.
and yeah. So my question is, can the user then go back and then continue to query and refine that workflow and then continue to test the same output again?
Well, let me show you what you can do. If I go back to the playground here, and I want to change something, and I want the match analysis here, strength. I want to, okay, overall fit score, and I want a numerical score. For instance, if I look here, what it did, it gave me 0. So there is probably a problem here. So I want, wait, here, between 0 and 100. And for instance, I want to change here. It's not called the gaps. It's called I don't know, the uh, bad points. I don't know. And maybe I'll have also I'm going to rename this to good points. And maybe I want to change the prompt and make the questions longer or anything like that. So which one is this one is generating to your questions. So the prompt says it's using the match analysis, and each question should either probe it. Okay. Be concise and strategic in your question design. If I remove the be concise, it's going to create longer questions here. Now it validated, as soon as I type, it's validating the code. So if I do a syntax error, it's going to find it out. So
Mm.
now if I run it again, we'll see how the changes I made had any impact. And then, okay, so it did it. If I look at the match analysis part here, I have good points and bad points. Okay, I don't know how,
Yeah.
but the overall sheet score is buggy. Um, one more thing that you can do is if I do this here, I just need to save it here. If I save it locally, I can have the agent from Cursor help me iterate on it. So I'm zooming in so that you can see clearly. This is the workflow text that was created. So I want to iterate on it. I'll say using right pipelex.md, make the job offer structured. Um, the make the job offer concept structured like that. Okay, I've been using a lot of Claude. Okay, I admit. Uh, so now it's reading and it's planning the change. It knows it's going to change the concept, and so it's adding relevant fields to make the job offer structured. You see, now it added the
Yeah,
structure.
I got it. Got it. Mm.
And so now if I do this here, it will be the job offer extraction. Okay,
Yeah, it's still executing it. Yeah, that's
yeah,
fine.
it's still validating because it made some
Yeah.
mistakes. So that will enable you to iterate on vibe coding on the workflow,
Mhm.
and we'll
Mhm.
have this integrated with our own agent at some point. But right now,
Okay.
we're happy with being compatible with the agents that people are already using, Cloud Code, Cursor, and this will be also more efficient once we plug it as an MCP. This is like this is near future. I'm talking about the next few days.
So if you have a community link where people can try it, or we can kind of add it to the description as well.
Yeah, well, we have a repo on GitHub. It's open.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. So
There's
we'll
the
add
main.
all that to the description of the podcast so that people can try it out. For
Okay.
sure. We want more and more people to come and try things out and give feedback so that it grows. That's the whole idea. Now, this is pretty interesting. So Pipelex will be available like as a plugin to implement in within a VS Code or a Cursor or whatever it is, right?
Yeah, MCP.
Okay. Okay. Cool. Also be Can it also be configured as a skill? We have in Anthropic they've coming up with skills, right?
Yeah, I like what they did with skills.
Yeah.
And at first sight, I thought, did they create a language for workflows? And then no, okay, no, it's just Markdown. So what they did with skills is actually very close to cursor rules.
Mm-hmm.
And Claude rules, rules when you use Claude Code, you can give it a set of rules in a Claude.md file, just one file with all the stuff in there. But Cursor, they called it, they made a folder with Cursor rules, and you can have different rules for different kind of tasks. And this is kind of what they're doing now with
Skills.
skills. Um, there could be a cloud skill to devise to help you think about your workflow. But if you run it several times, it's not going to give you the same results every time. So that's why you would need to convert it into a Pipelex workflow to have it run
Yeah, which
deterministically.
is what I'm thinking that within Cloud Code you could have it call out Pipelex and then run the
Yeah,
skill for you, right? Or build a managing and building workflows should be the skill that is delivered through Pipelex.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, super. So how long have you been actively building on this, and how big is your team?
We've been building on this since summer 24. So it's a year between a year and a year and a half. My team is 4 people,
Okay.
3 operational. So I have my co-founder and CEO, Robin, and I have a founding engineer. I'm the CTO, so there's actually 2 engineers working on that.
Okay. Nice. And any current challenges that you're facing with, or any needs that you have as a startup who's based
Clearly,
in the Valley as well as,
yeah,
operations back in Europe?
yeah. What we need right now is people trying out our tech. And getting to our repo, getting their hands on it. We crossed the 100 stars bar on GitHub a few days ago. Now we're at 180. We know that there are many engineers who won't try a repo that doesn't have like a minimum of 100 or a minimum of 100 stars, which I totally respect. So I'm calling on to people who are interested in trying new stuff that hasn't been vetted before them so that they get their hands on it and they look and see if it works as well as we're saying it works and if it's useful, and then they give us feedback. So we really need users and feedback. This is how great products get made. So before I have like a million people trying my tech, I won't have the opportunity to make it really work and really answer the needs of the first users. So to do that, we're welcoming them to our GitHub. We're welcoming them to our Discord, where we provide direct support and listen to feedback. And also because our workflows are really powerful when you use many different AI models, LLMs, image generation, vision, etc. Most people don't have access to all the best models for every possibility. So we are giving also API keys with free credits so that people can have access to all the models that we support and start testing and developing. So it will not cost them anything. The inference will be on us.
Cool. And is there like a place they need to register, or they can just kind of go and download the repo and start?
It says so on the README that if you want the API key, you just need to drop by our
Okay,
Discord, and we'll send you the key. But you can also use the repo as is and bring your own key. You can put your Azure credentials or OpenAI or Gemini or Anthropic. You just put them in there, and it works.
cool. Any other ask?
We're also, looking for business angels, smart money business angels. Specifically, this is the way we're starting our seed. So people who are very legitimate in open source AI, dev tools, and marketing in the US. This is what's interesting for us. So if you're an investor and watching this is the kind of investors who we want to hear about.
Super. Okay. This has been interesting.
Yeah.
Louis, it's been a great conversation. I'm really looking forward to see where you land with this and hoping to see a much more involved, detailed demo whenever you're ready to do that as well.
Yeah, and we'll publish many videos and demos and all of that. It will be crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Thank you once again for coming on Founder Journeys. It has been a pleasure.
Thank you, Sanjeev.